Hiya, this is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in the student accommodation all the way in Scotland. Wait, that was years ago. You're listening to ShowX Live with your favorite Scotsman Ken, currently residing in the US of A, and Wayne, mostly from Colorado.
Hey, wait a second. I'm on the show too, and I don't get any billing at all? Well, I know how to solve this. Soldater,
this always works.
Fremad, march! You're listening to Show X with our favorite Scotsman Ken, our child of the corn Wayne, currently living in Colorado, and Todd, who now has an army of angry Norwegians at his back. Enjoy the show!
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's show. So this week, as you're listening at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 18th of October, 2020, we're going to be talking a little bit about what's been going on lately with news and technology and gaming. So we're going to do a little bit of a catch-up show here so that we can talk to what's been going on. But to kick things off this week, let's see, I was going to jump in ahead and talk about, let's see, well, actually, one quick follow-up thing off the top of the show. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Apple iPhone announcement. We're going to talk about Microsoft making a deal with GameStop. Going to talk about, but off the top, what I was going to talk about was Prime Week. Because we were, as we talk about capitalism and the things we do in a technology and digital age, whether or not, I'm kind of curious to all of you out there, how was your happy Prime Day sales day buying experience, or did you? Throwing that out there.
Didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah, I knew that it existed in the past, and I'd looked at the sales before, but I don't think they even bothered to email me this time. I didn't see anything about it.
Well,
I definitely did not get an email.
No, it's from what I understand, it's a U.S. only thing. So it makes sense why, like, I noticed you wouldn't have a clue, and you probably wouldn't have heard about it, Todd or Ken, if you're, if they're still trying to reach out to the UK. Oh, interesting.
We had it in the UK before.
Okay. Yeah. Well, because it seems like it's mostly a North American thing, because I think they were talking about how in Canada, I was watching other shows talk about it, they don't get a lot of the deals or things like that, or it's because of shipping and such. Or I think because they're not allowed to have Prime, because they don't do Prime shipping in Canada. I believe that's the case because of how because of how expensive shipping in Canada is. Anyhow, I was just curious because when I looked at it, I had probably 3 or 4 times where I had things in my basket and then I kept deleting them. And it went back and forth because really for me, the thing that came up on my feed that made the most sense, if I cared enough to, were Amazon's own built-in products that they put sales on. And so like their assistant products, their Echoes and stuff like that, they had most of those on sale for about half off. And so if you're actually using them, and I do have some of them already, I was looking at maybe getting one of their touchscreen ones for my kitchen to have something I can put a recipe up on. That was like the only thing I saw there. Yeah, I can do that. And I kept going, I don't need this. Delete. Yeah. Checks it again. I don't need this. Delete.
Not a necessity.
No, not at all. I think the only other thing I saw that looked like it was a legitimate sale because there's 2 pieces of it. It's one, was there anything you cared about? And 2, were there actually sales? And the other one I saw was like
Camel.
Dude, so bad. Thank goodness for apps like Honey and some of these other ones that are out there now that can track the history of pricing, so you can check it yourself.
Who's wondering why I'm shouting the animal camel over and over? It's actually a website called camelcamelcamel.com. What you do is you copy your Amazon link to the item you're thinking about purchasing. You drop it into camelcamelcamel.com, literally just the whole link, paste it in there. It'll tell you the price ranges over time, whether it's the lowest or the highest or whatever. The likely type of stuff. It's awesome. And Wayne also mentioned, Honey as well, the extension.
Honey's a plugin and extension, yeah. But essentially you can do the same thing.
Crap, to be honest.
Okay.
Honey, like, it's supposed to give you coupons, and I have to say, so far it never has.
I've had it work for me once or twice.
I don't mean to be the Luddite in the room here, but I understand the desire to want to maximize the value of your dollar.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, makes sense.
And again, I'm gonna sound totally backwards. I realize that in advance. But the less money a company like Amazon makes, the less money that potentially could be available to pay its employees. Like, I know Amazon sucks, right? I know they suck. But think about it from, we know these people are terrible and they treat their workers like dirt, and now they're seeing a year-over-year loss of revenue of even 5% because a quarter of their user base is now not only buying things on deep discount on Amazon, but are buying things at the lowest possible price point.
But here's the thing I would wonder. When those discounts happen, who fails from that? Does Amazon lose money? Does the original lister, the person selling it, lose some percentage?
Great question.
Things like that, right?
I think the difference...
Great question.
A discount isn't there to be, if it's discounted, they don't make
to
money.
Not take advantage of it, yeah.
Right?
It's in some way. Either it's either, because often what I saw, like a lot of the products I saw on the Amazon Prime Day, they put significant discounts on the last generation model of things. And one of the specific examples was like on the Echo Dots and stuff like that. They had half off on some of the older ones, and on the older, smaller versions of the touchscreens. But the new ones, big ones, and like the brand new Ring and all their other products were full price. So part of it looked like a way that it's oh no, let's dump the old stock, right? Which is...
Well, so I hear you. I understand why. I remember the DICE 2010 presentation that Gabe Newell gave that says, they discount a game by 50 to 75% and the sales increase by a factor of 8.
Yeah.
Right. So not only do they make as much or more money than not only do they make as much money as they would have had they not discounted the thing, they actually make more.
Yep.
Right. So the discounting is actually a net income and profit add for them.
Well, it's the same thing as Black Friday, all those kind of big sale things, right?
I go back to 2 years ago. I was in a systems engineering conference at a university here in Norway, and I was watching all of these people that were so proud of themselves for what they were doing in terms of the theme of the conference was automation. And all of these groups that were so proud of themselves for the work that they had done, and justifiably so, because all of it was really awesome. And not a single human being in that presentation center said word one about what they were going to do for all of the people that they were going to put out of work.
Oh, of course not. I mean, like, we
that would make it not nearly as enticing or sexy to share with people.
No, it's
what's the conference for? Was it like the technology side of it? Like, if you're talking tech,
purely an engineering conference. Well, okay. Right. So I hear you, and again, I understand, right? But we're talking about a thing. We're talking about the automation revolution is going to make the industrial revolution look like a bike ride.
Yep.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're engineers. In the same way that principles of physics have been applied to economics, like the concept of momentum and things like that, we could apply principles of engineering to economics and start treating the economics as a influencing system as we look at these systems, and start looking at those knock-on effects and talking about them, and
make it part of the process, so it's not just that you have engineers only engineering the new whiz-bang thing, scientists not only looking at is it theoretically even possible or a thing. The idea that perhaps it would be worthwhile to, I don't know, like extend things to the whole, like where these will impact society, people, everything?
Yeah, we got this fantastic new cholesterol drug. It will decimate your liver. Like, I'm not expecting when this stuff first gets announced for it to go yes. And if we do logistics entirely with robots, we're going to put 30% of everybody out of work. Like, I'm not expecting that. I was expecting something a little bit more than, well, we'll just retrain them to write the pseudocode for the robots and it's going to be fine. That'll all just be 1-to-1. It's like, no. Like, I don't think you've looked at the statistics for job retraining programs.
Yeah. No, like, but this is not consumer level discussion, though, is it? I mean, if you're thinking about buying something on Amazon because it's on sale and it's cheaper on Amazon than it is on eBay or whatever, you're doing it because you're a consumer. I mean, you can certainly vote for somebody who's going to be in the eye or something, right? I mean, that's
sorry. Yeah. So to bring this around to the point that I was trying to get to like 15 minutes ago. If Amazon sees a year-over-year sales decrease by 5 or 10%, it will be all the justification in the minds of the bean counters that they'll need to not give anybody a raise.
Well, not that they were going to do it anyways.
Well, they maybe they were, maybe they weren't, right? I mean, that honestly, everybody working for Amazon should get a cut of the check of all the money that they've made.
Well,
since the pandemic started.
Oh, I don't disagree, but I don't disagree, and I'm actually one of those people who, while not wanting to necessarily go to the length of limiting the amount a CEO can make of something, I'm not against the idea of the idea of percentages, like thou shalt make no more than X% more than your lowest paid employee. But because it incentivizes everyone. Because
yes, Hendo, Andrew Yang was right, and the price he paid for it was getting called the sexist by Nancy Pelosi. So yes, 100%, 100%. When he's not being accused of being a Russian plant or whatever.
What, Yang?
Whatever.
There was a lot wrong with Andrew Yang. He was backed by the corporations more than anything, and that was the biggest problem, I think, for me anyway. But I did like, he was. If you looked at where his donor money came from, it was from places you don't want somebody in politics to have money from, which also speaks for most politicians in the U.S.
I was going to say, wait, you mean all our politicians?
Anyhow. Everybody?
Yeah. Well, apart from AOC.
That's fair enough. I never looked at donor lists.
I did not. I have not paid enough attention myself. So anyhow, now my big topic on there about Amazon in general is just whether or not Prime Day even mattered. And it's kind of those things that I found things that might have been kind of sales, but I feel like ever since the first announcement of Prime Day, it's been so lackluster that I just don't care. And I will look forward more to Black Friday if it comes to actually buying things, gifts, whatever it might be, for actual spending money again. And
I got to remember to do that.
Well, and one of the things I did here is just a consumer level thing to be aware. Because of pandemic and because of things going like that, there are several stores that have announced they're going to be doing their sales all month of November, from beginning of November through, to minimize rushes and to allow people to kind of just slow roll it, because they've already talked about throughout the year, because people have been stuck at home more. Most online purchasing has been at a level of almost like Black Friday every week for a lot of companies. So it'll be interesting to see how it progresses. Anyhow, but in those lines, go ahead.
We're gonna keep on this economics train, because I'm gonna brag about my new home, because while some of the stuff is not quite as good as it's advertised outside of Norway, some of the stuff is as good or better than advertised in Norway.
Okay.
So we pay very high tax, as I'm sure you're aware.
Do you have a legit percentage? Because I always hear numbers thrown around, but it's never like legit. It's always like they pay 80% of their income.
No, so here's the thing. You have to be careful, because if you're talking about total tax burden, then you have to take not only what I pay in income tax, and you would have to do this for anybody, by the way, not only what I pay in income tax, what I also pay in wealth tax, if applicable, what I also pay in sales tax where it applies,
Okay.
where I also and also pay in property tax where it applies. Now, the one thing that the Norwegians have done, and you have to give them credit for this, is all of this is on sort of, well, not sales tax, but the income tax, wealth tax, and property tax is all on a sliding scale that starts at 0
Okay.
and goes up from there. So in terms of percentage, what I pay for income tax is 43%.
Okay.
So sales tax is either 0 or 15 or 25%, depending on what you're buying. And I can't even tell you what the classes of objects where all those fit in are. In order to pay property tax, you have to your property has to be worth above a certain amount of money. And then you only pay tax on the amount over the threshold.
Okay. So anything. So if you were to get anything even like $5 over, you're really only getting taxed on that $5, whatever the tax burden limit is. Okay, that makes sense to me.
Rather than the whole 5 million.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, we have the same similar type stuff in Scotland for certain taxes.
Yep. And then the wealth tax is based off of some complex formula that I don't think applies to me yet, but may at some point in the future. Well, because it's based off of company ownerships and property ownerships and investment ownership.
You mean overall
that makes
wealth,
sense, right?
Not just what they claim as income. So overall wealth.
Well, So if you're trying to do so you say it makes sense, and on paper, I agree. If we were in what I would call a normal economic cycle, but we're not in a normal economic cycle, and we haven't been really in a normal economic cycle since 99.
It looks like we got a pause.
Well, that's happening. I'll steal the show here. So I have a family member. I'm not going to name any names, but let's say a distant relative who made a lot of money about 15, 20 years ago. Like sold a bunch of properties and stuff and business and made a lot of money, right? And then stopped having an income, retired completely, right? Which makes sense, when you have a bunch of, when you liquidate like that, you've got a big cash sum, you can just
one of those goals, perhaps. Interest, right? Yeah, one of those goals, perhaps. Yeah. Earn enough money, do enough good things at some point to no longer need to earn more money, basically, to be able to live off it.
He was laughing with my dad and myself because he was saying, "Do I know how much I paid in tax last year?" And we're like, "How much?" And he said, "Nothing." And it's because it's all just put away. He doesn't actually earn anything. He said that he actually qualifies for unemployment benefits. And I was like, that's just madness. Sorry, Todd.
But that is one of the complaints. That is one of the complaints when it comes to most systems, is that there's too many ways for people who have accrued wealth to minimize the tax burden they actually have to accrue and thus not participate in the system designed to benefit everyone. And that's one of the challenges.
And so there are problems. There are problems both ways. And the point I was trying to make is, if 50% of global GDP has decided, or the central bankers behind 50% of global GDP have told you that they are going to stop at nothing to protect the price of assets, then the most correct thing that you could do is to acquire assets.
Basically have assets.
You shouldn't save, right? A simple savings account. You should go acquire assets in whatever form that is, whether it be mutual funds, whether it be stocks, whether it be, a property.
Actual property,
if you can do it in that
any asset that will gain or hold value, kind of thing.
I mean, if you want to go to the most extreme
not
goal,
cars.
Obviously not cars. But gold, right? Because you can turn the gold or convert the gold back into a reserve currency. Although gold tends to work, the gold market tends to run opposite to the stock market, so you have to be a little bit careful. Anything that we value on the show should not be looked at as advice.
No, I don't have the portfolio
gold is great while the world is stable, right?
Go to reddit.com/r/Wall Street Bets to get all of your financial.
Yeah, this
r/personal finance. I'll recommend
the last bit. No, the last thing I want to say, just in the taxation discussion, is to bring it home for those here in the U.S., is that while you'll hear other countries talk about massive tax burdens, like Todd just said about Norway, the U.S. has almost equal levels of tax burden as all these countries you see that are at least more upfront about it. We just hide it every step of the way because we get taxed on income, on sales, on basically every step of the way. There's taxation, and there's taxation on buying the goods that you're then going to sell, on selling the goods that you then sold, and the person who bought the goods who bought it as well. Like every step around the chain, if you actually look at the U.S. tax burden, it's way higher than people expect. And so when they hear that, oh, we'll have to do more to pay for this generalized thing, you already are.
In terms of total tax burden, that's correct. To go back to Hando in the chat, I mean, you could really say the sort of precursor to it was the tech bubble, but really what we're talking is post 2007, or post 2008, where interest rates were already zero. The Fed and the European Central Bank decided they were going to continue to try and support asset prices no matter what the cost. And so they did this thing called quantitative easing, where they were just where the central banks were buying garbage assets in order to protect asset prices, right? Oof. And so what happened at the beginning of the pandemic was, and to almost no fanfare, by the way, is both the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank both declared QE infinity. So rather than them just doing it in small bursts when it was really necessary, it's like, we're going to do this starting now until God knows when.
Yep.
And if that's really true, then interest rates are never going to rise above zero, right? In Europe, at least in Germany, if not all of Europe. Well, so definitely not in Norway. But in Germany, for sure, most of continental Europe, base interest rates are negative.
Okay.
Right? So, again, to try and tie this off, if the central banks are going to tell you that the most correct thing for you to do with your money is to acquire assets, then I think it's wrong that on the back end, after I've done exactly what the central banks have told me that I'm supposed to do, that the government comes in and takes a chunk of that, because on paper, all of the money that would be in a simple savings account earning 2 or 3% interest that would be totally safe, I have to put into mutual funds.
And thus take it away.
The interest rate on my simple savings account is essentially zero, and the mutual funds are making 12 to 15% per year, like clockwork. And right. So on paper, it looks like I'm on paper, it could look like I'm far wealthier than I am.
Yes. Well, meaning actual available funds and things like that. The potential is there. Yeah. It's potential wealth versus kind of on hand. But anyhow, and it's something that a lot of people don't. It's a weird thing, right? The average general public, at least in the U.S., doesn't have this issue, right? Because they have no assets. And it's arguably the system is built for and helps only the wealthy. Essentially.
And the thing was, right, your house used to be an asset. And that changed after the tech bubble, when interest rates dropped to such a degree that anybody could get a mortgage because the price of money was very cheap.
Yep.
Not only that, the large investment banks wanted to create as much securitized debt as humanly possible so they could make fees on selling.
Let's give everybody a mortgage.
Yada, yada, yada.
Give everybody a mortgage, regardless if they deserve or can handle it.
So and that's the problem. During that period, the houses stopped being assets and started being liabilities for people.
Yeah. Which I've witnessed because I've seen people in my own neighborhood who could not maintain the homes they bought into because they bought at subprime mortgages and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey,
absolutely.
And don't get me wrong, I was a beneficiary of the subprime market. Now, I got into a fixed rate as soon as humanly possible. So, at or near the height of the bubble,
Smart man.
Changed my mortgage over to a fixed rate. And then I think I refinanced once after the bubble burst.
Yep.
Right. So I think my interest rate went from something like 6 to 4. Something like that.
You brought it down to a normal level versus the opposite normally happens, which it'll balloon up. Yeah. Me having a VA loan, being ex-military, similar issue where I just went straight, 30-year off the top, done.
Oh, smart.
Benefits.
Anyway.
Yeah. After our quick jump into, hey, I got something techie. Oh, go ahead.
My fiber gets installed tomorrow.
Hey! Oh! Cannot wait. Wait.
Straight to the house.
1,000.
Oh, I'm jealous.
1,000 internet access.
I have this desire for people in tech and people who understand. I have 1,000 down, 40 up right now with cable because I don't know why they can't do synchronous because dumb. It makes no sense to me, and I can't wait for fiber to hit. But I have a goal that as more legitimate just network connections happen, which is essentially what synchronous fiber is, that I can make a web of friends and people who have said access and can build replicating storage like in other people. I have a server rack in my basement with JBODs in it that have right now about 10 terabytes of rated storage. Or no, sorry, that's way less. I have about 20 terabytes of rated storage. And so actually usable storage about 20 terabytes, all in RAID 5. Yes, I've invested. My goal, because my JBOD setup, I feel like I could hold at least 100 terabytes pretty comfortably, and I wouldn't mind to go higher. But if I could have another server in someone else's basement and we shared cost in like actual physical spinning media, it allows me to not have to pay a service, but perhaps set up through a trusted network of people, federated storage, right? That's so my backup on house by having a RAID, but then my replicated backup externally to in case my house burns down kind of thing. And if I could set up like because I'm already going to try to do this with my brother out in California, go with his, but I was thinking if I could put multiple places in the world and then we all just invest on overall building storage over time. But if everybody had synchronous gigabit, the ability to replicate and access files externally, amazing.
I know.
Plus,
so I'm going to
lack of freezing tods.
I'm going to run a speed test Monday after we're all get set up and running.
I'd say give it a couple days to settle. Sometimes you can find there's some oddities in the network if you don't give us a couple days to settle. I don't know why, and I'm not going to try to explain why because I don't even know. And
I had other issues with my personal router because I have the cable connection and then I have my router. And when I would change settings on the router, I hadn't allowed myself the full bandwidth because I was doing too much deep packet learning and too much deep basically protection stuff, firewall things. And so it was limiting me and I had to let that go. No, that's cool. I cannot wait because it makes all things for streaming even better, So
I also love it when, so I've been kicking around the idea of getting VPN for quite a while.
Yeah.
And
I use VPNs for very specific purposes.
I've been kind of like, yeah, we should do it, but I don't know. It's like, that my computer equipment all seems relatively safe.
Yeah.
So,
it's more about privacy, isn't it? I think it's less about protecting yourself and more about privacy and that sort of security, data security.
Sure. And then the mistress of giggles yesterday was like, "Hey, what do you think about getting a VPN?" I'm like, "Yep, we're due."
Heck yes.
Let's do it. So that's probably happening on Tuesday.
Nice.
Yeah. So what are your plans with your new bandwidth? Do you have any big plans? And is it coming with an extra cost, or is it just part of like?
It's, our costs are actually going to go down.
That's awesome.
Oh, to live in the land of the North.
Indeed. So what you used to do is or what the so it's not like, well, so they exist obviously, but we don't live in them because they're hella expensive. But there aren't, for example, inside Oslo, there aren't that many single family units, right?
Okay.
It's all buildings, and I would call them apartment buildings or condos. They just call them, they only have one word for it, right?
Okay.
Apartment. And so we own our apartment, but we're part of a HOA, and so
you're
on,
basically
so on.
what we would call a condo. Yeah.
What I would call a condo. Very
Yep.
not that dissimilar from what I owned in Denver,
Yep.
truthfully. And so, along with the HOA, so part of the HOA fee is a basic cable and internet service.
Okay.
And if you want more than that, then you have to get in contact with the cable provider or the ISP and ask for more, and then they bill you for the difference, essentially.
Okay.
And so, we have always done that because the basic is like 15.15. Like, it's kind of garbage.
Yeah.
And so we've always bumped it up to something.
Base is base.
Base is base. Yeah, it's true. Base is not base.
Not all your base do I want belong to me.
No. All the base are unwanted by all. So anyway, so in this case, 1,000 is the base.
What?
Yep.
Oh, see, this reminds me. I heard recently in the United States a rumor. I haven't tracked down the article myself because it hasn't come to me. That Google has actually talked about where they have fiber in the United States, expanding it to 2x2 to 2,000 by 2,000 for basically the same cost. And I want them to do that. I've been a huge proponent for like localized fiber and other ISPs to come in. You've all heard it. I'm all about net neutrality and as many ISPs as you can, and they should only connect you to the web and not care what you damn do about it. I'd be fine with a municipal ISPs that existed everywhere, so there's real competition. Because getting the bits to people should not be the cost it is today. Just should not.
Here.
It is done because they are legacy, what used to be telephone and television providers trying to desperately grasp hold of the straws that were their old economic model, and they don't want to let it go. The reality of 100%. The actual hardware and the cost of doing and this, to the point where I have researched multiple times what it would be for me to become my own ISP, because it costs $2,300 a month to get a backbone connection to my house. And so if I were to have my own, my own direct to the backbone internet connection into my garage, how many people would I have to have in my neighborhood connected via Wi-Fi, direct Wi-Fi Unify connections to make it worthwhile and make my job go from being what I do today to just being an ISP personally? And I've done the math. It's not insane, just past what I can do comfortably right now.
Right.
That's how bad it is. No, I'm excited to hear that. In fact, I'd love to do a little straw poll to everyone in the chat, everyone watching kind of thing. What are you, if you're comfortable letting us know, what internet are you currently getting and what generally are you paying to get it? If it's part, and just in general, is it part of a bigger package? I pay for just internet because I cut the cord over a decade ago where I have an antenna, HD antenna to get my base content. Everything else comes over the net. So HD antenna for local sports, everything else net. And I'm paying right now on a discount from from the local cable provider. I'm paying basically $140, a little less than that, $120 something a month right now ish on a deal for 2 years. That is gigabit down, 40 up with inclusion of unlimited bandwidth, their modem basically, and whatever. And once that's out, I plan on going down to the half gig price, buying my own modem, and basically paying the same thing I'm paying now. Is my goal in the end, although it might go up a tiny bit. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I appreciate that. Legend Tinker, who's also in my neighborhood, is currently doing 175 down, 5 up for $75 a month, nothing bundled.
Oh.
I will tell you right now, and that's part of the challenge, right? I mean, 5 up to me is sin because that's streaming caps. That's hard to maintain. You need at least 15 up, unless that's megabyte, not megabit. But 175 is good. Kuro is telling me, God, what? 400 meg? Oh yeah, he's got the data cap, 1.2 terabyte data cap, which
almost everybody actually has a data cap. It's deep in the terms and conditions, and it says that they
can throttle you at any time.
They might limit your
they can throttle you to any time. I have pushed the limits because I checked mine, and I think my local. I have had months here. It used to be Game Fest stuff, right? LAN party where everyone updates at my house, but where I could hit. But because I downloaded Microsoft Flight and the new Warzone in the same month, which together by themselves was over 300 gigs, almost 400 gigs, just those two games. I think I hit somewhere in the range of 4 terabytes in a month that I maxed. Something like that.
And what happened?
Nothing happened. I pay for $50 extra a month, although it's in this discount right now for unlimited bandwidth. And I will always pay for unlimited bandwidth. I was going to say the same thing on my phone, because I was looking at my phone usage, and I somehow in my phone got over 4 or 5 gig use of download in a month. And I realized like my data usage, because I have fully committed to all things digital, means I can't go for a non-unlimited plan. I wouldn't be able to afford a non-unlimited.
Right. No, it's true.
And like you're getting, Todd, you get gig down, gig up. The ability to consume becomes so much easier. That if anyone who's got like gig down and a terabyte limit, that's nothing. And you see the streaming services out there. If you're watching things in 4K streaming, you will get there in no time. So, yeah.
So our phone plan used to have, and it still does have, a data limit. And I know that when I was driving 5 days a week, if I didn't remember to download the podcast I was listening to
before going,
I went to work, and I accidentally streamed them instead. I would end up coming at or near or over the data cap by the last week.
Yep.
With a week to go.
No, that's the thing.
At that point I just said, okay, I'm shutting off data for everything. Like, if I don't have it on my phone at the time I get into the truck, well, I don't need it. Because I could listen to audiobooks, I can listen to all kinds of things.
Yeah, there's ways around it, right? There's ways to manage your data. I just push this along with my net neutrality conversations in the sense that as we continue to go forward, and I feel like we've been past this for over a decade now, and maybe I was just one of those few on the forward thinking side, in that I knew my consumption of data was only going to increase. And so from the day unlimited became available, I did. In fact, on my phone plan, one of the funny things there, because there was a flux where they went through a time frame where they had unlimited. I got it on 4G or 3G unlimited back in the day. And then when they opened up 4G, they got rid of all their unlimited plans. And when they did that, I didn't upgrade. And they kept mailing me and yelling at me and saying like, but we're not going to give you 4G unless you upgrade to one of these plans that has a cap. And I said, or no,
because I don't want your stupid cap.
Yeah. So I waited.
Speed.
Yeah, I waited until they finally released unlimited plans again. Granted, caveated unlimited, because my old 3G was unlimited with no throttling. But then eventually they made it so I could not keep it. But once they came out with another unlimited plan, I jumped onto that. And I was like, I'm sorry, I am going to use all of the bandwidths, right? I need the big flippin' party pack 15-foot bandwidth for me, because sometimes I'll share, but I need that triple deep hoagie all the time for me because that's who I am. And I've advertised that to everyone I know who's going to cut the cord at some point. I've had more people talk to me recently. They're like, but sports, and I was like, there are ways. And now that ESPN Plus is a real thing, come on now. And
ESPN Plus has been a thing for over a decade too.
Right.
That's how I got into rugby, dude.
Oh, dude, because they
Was
World
watching
Sports,
the Scottish
what?
national rugby team on ESPN Plus.
And so now that, and the one that he was jumping on is because he had whatever deal with whatever provider, Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN all together, because big corporations and conglomerates. And he's like, I was like, there you go. You know that Kuro still lives in the Colorado ghetto because he's in Pueblo. Sorry, but true. That's bad.
It's so ghetto. It's Utah.
But anyhow, so I am curious. Thank you guys for sharing about some of your internet connections, because I'm very curious what people are doing. And hearing that, like Kuro, you said your local fiber offers synchronous gig for 160. While somewhat expensive, not insane, and at least it's there for like a super user like me. At least it's there. This is why I want municipal, and this is why I want the Googles who were paying. Google was offering it for what, $80 a month for synchronous gig when they were still trying to be an ISP when they're not an ISP. So I hope more people get that, but also letting people know it's out there. Keep pressing for it. So Serpenser, you ain't lived until you've lived in Pueblo.
Serpenser's telling lies. I've been through Pueblo enough to know that I have no need to live in Pueblo.
I've experienced Pueblo. I've dated people from Pueblo, and you do definitely learn some things when you experience things like that. I've learned things. Anyhow. All right, I want to switch things as we talk about tech and consumerism to some other recent news that came out. Oh man, I have learned that there is culture within every community.
Oh, indeed. And I guess the things that work out in Aurora, you can always go raise sheep.
Well, Aurora is only a primer to what I would have to be ready for in Pueblo. So, sorry. Hey, that's the internal Colorado struggle of people.
We need to get Ken out to A-Town sometime.
He's come. No. Ken came one time. He came to a Game Fest.
Okay.
He flew out shortly after being here, but I gave him a slight tour. I was able to give him like a quick tour, and he was like, "Whoa!" But I did show it. Did I take you down Colfax?
Yeah, I got sad when we went through Colfax. I
gave him a taste.
I was actually like, "This is depressing." Like,
wow, but
I could not live like this.
So there's a Voodoo Donut, and there's a.
My girlfriend lives a block away from Voodoo Donut.
Oh,
block and a half.
Well, now it all makes sense. And there's a wicked. I haven't eaten there, but it looks wicked. A wicked biscuits and gravy place on Colfax. That's called like Denver Biscuit Company or something like that.
Denver Biscuit Company is phenomenal. They have one on Broadway and they have one on Colfax. It's awesome. And I think they have one up north in Boulder now too. Anyhow, cool. All good. Okay, but we're going to switch over and talk about some other consumerism. In this case, we're going to talk about Apple, because they just recently had a new Apple Day, and not like the first one where they said, look, we have a bigger iPad that nobody's going to buy, and we have new laptops that nobody cares about because we're still waiting until we get to our own built-in silicon that everyone's really waiting for. This announcement is the one kind of people had been waiting for, which, well, started out by something nobody really cared about. So anyhow, Apple just recently had their announcement. I'm going to play in the background this video that is Apple iPhone's 12 events in under 12 minutes. So we have some context to see what happened. And so what Apple did in this, as I say, except that my video for Todd on this is like way oversized. All right, fixing. So the first thing, I was like, where did he go? The first thing announced, which please tell me if anyone cares. I'd love to see in the chat. They announced their new Siri-based home assistant speaker thingy, which oddly enough, at first I thought was silly because it's round, but they actually showed how the speaker system in it's really good. I'll give them credit. Apple, when they do some things, do them somewhat well, and they said that the audio sound of it shoot down firing speakers way better than the up firings from some other ones.
Sure. So it's an Apple gadget, right?
Yep.
Right. And what has Apple proven to us in the last 15 years? I
like to move anything of the system whatsoever, ever.
That's true. That's price you pay. Why would you ever buy other than an Apple gadget?
Once you get Apple, get all Apple.
They're just better. You can.
I know why that's happening, people. Just a second. There you go. Echo fix.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's my fault. It's because I hadn't fixed on this source yet. The turning off the
All good.
turning off the background
So
was weird.
what were you saying, Todd?
I was saying that with Apple gadgets, you pay the Apple tax for the Apple gadgets because the Apple gadgets, number one, are just better, and two, they just work.
Well, to a degree,
Right?
their UI is
You're being
amazing.
sarcastic,
Their
right?
design is good.
No, not at all.
Their design's actually solid. Their design is arguably some of the best in the industry. I have an iPhone here. Their Apple Watches and their phones, right? They have their UI. So Legend's saying their UI sucks. Most people will argue whatever you grew up with is the source that you care about and what matters to you. But the thing about Apple that they do, although they have built-in and they force, the death of their old products, is that it's built into their eco. They only support it so long, but so does Android. Android's almost worse in the way that they'll just let things die and not tell you. Like Apple straight up, like, here's when it dies. But
they don't actually fill it with bloatware like Apple does. Apple will upgrade it to the point where it can't actually handle what it's supposed to be doing. That's the real issue.
Well, they each have their issues. They each have their way of doing it. So here's the big announcement. Okay, so the speaker and the assistant, everybody's like, whatever. Because honestly, Siri, I don't use it on my phone. I don't care. Like I use Alexa in my home because that's what I use. I use the Amazon organization to turn on lights and stuff and control my Nest and things like that.
It's only $99.
It's actually, which one? The Apple one?
Yeah.
It's supposedly really good. Like the audio on it's supposed to be brilliant. Just so you know, like they have a black, they have a white one. It's supposed to sound amazing.
Okay.
And they argue that Siri has gotten smarter.
Okay.
Okay, I'm more interested in it.
But I'll tell you what, it's a heck of a lot less than buying a soundbar would be.
Than a soundbar is. And they talked about some cool features of it that it has, because it has the A5 chip in it, and it basically is using one of their old self-based, they have processing in it that if you stick two of them in the same room, they'll automatically sync and become stereo speakers. You don't have to coordinate or do anything, that it automatically has if you're in the Apple architecture, right? If you're already in the ecosystem, the AirPlay, everything.
Well, no. With like a click.
Well, so many things already do that. You're right, Ken. It's just Apple doing what Apple does. The things they introduce are probably 5 to 10 years, 2 years, maybe, whatever, behind what is capable from kind of the Android or other technology forms. But when Apple releases it, and I give them credit for this, they do it full box. It's one clean presentation. Here we took longer, but here's the Apple version. And it works. And it's really great. And like Carl said, yeah, you can do it for years. I agree. Apple's always behind, and I don't push. The only device of theirs I have is a phone because it worked for me so well. And I've been very happy with the UI and things like that. Yes,
Can
Todd?
I cut you off for just a second? Because I'm a little bit curious. You said they're making an iPad that has an even bigger screen. Bigger than the iPad Pro?
Well, no, not a bigger screen.
A new version of the iPad Pro.
They made a new Air and they made a new Pro basically for the iPad. But no, it's just got a better chip. It's the new 14 chip that they've got, which is what they're now processing in the phone. It's really like the speaker. Yeah,
I'll tell you what. Being the Mistress of Giggles has an iPad Pro and an Apple Pen.
If that's your right,
I could be convinced to use that as my in-bed viewing.
Oh, I've always said tablets in general are a great consumption device. They're wonderful for it. With the Apple Pen and things like that, and on Android device, although I don't know if they have an equivalent to the Pen situation, because they talked about that in that announcement a month ago or so about the way they've updated the Apple Pen interface and how well it works. I mean, it equates similar to like a Wacom tablet, that you basically are getting that in your whole setup for an additional, I forget how much the pen costs, $200? Whatever. Not for me. I don't have an iPad, no need for it. I have PCs and I have my phone, and the phone does my version of consumption.
I'm working on, well, as you guys know, I'm working on a really brand new iMac, top of the range. So this thing was like $5,000 or something. My work paid for it, of course. I would never drop that kind of money on Apple. But it's beautiful. Like, it's got a 5K display, which is
their screens are beautiful. I actually worked.
What you got up on the screen there, sir? It looks like Civ.
How do you? Oh, I've got it on. Maybe World of Warcraft, saying fishing in the background. Maybe.
This is why you gotta play Black Desert. It'll fish for you.
Busted
Very nice.
do my fishing and wow. Oh no.
Busted.
People know again. I started playing again on my birthday.
This is why Ken has no notes to speak off of.
I thought I was an a-hole for playing EU4 during the downtime of our D&D campaigns.
I can't show it on that screen. This because it's on that.
This fishing is taking so much of my mental capacity.
See, I should show like, hey people, for what oh no, that's just that display. I was gonna say what I look at.
Honestly, I thought for a doctor, professor, rear admiral, Jedi master, like we could get your full and undivided attention.
Todd, I've been trying to accomplish that during a show for the past like 5 years or more.
That's
The number of times where people who are actually here to watch, and you'll see, I can look over and see like in the Steam friends list or something, Gohex is playing this. So I was like, yeah, he is. Anyhow, but no. So, okay. Google Assistants, Apple Assistants.
Can do your fishing.
Well, he's like, but I don't care about Apple infrastructure you guys are talking about.
I'm
Good.
totally interested in the conversation, and I'm taking part. And I was trying to say that I am part of the Apple ecosystem somewhat because of the fact that I have an iMac. And I've had an iPhone in the past as well, and I moved over to Android because, well, it was cheaper, and I just didn't want to be part of that ecosystem. I didn't like the bloatware and so on.
So there's something. Your point is very well made, and I make it about the computers all the time. I refuse to pay the Apple tax for an Apple computer.
Me too.
Unfortunately,
and I play games.
And I may have gotten in on Android too early, but the best part of my Android experience was taking a Google My Touch 3G and giving myself super user on it and jailbreaking it one Saturday night at a Game Fest.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because it was stupid, right? You had to have
I remember that though.
Right? So you had to have advanced task killer to kill off apps.
Yes. Back when everything would just start to live forever.
They live forever and they kill your battery.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing though, with Android it's quite easy to get root, whereas in iPhone you actually lose your warranty and all that other crap.
You're right.
You want the jailbreak.
But Apple's desire
it may be easier to get root now. It was not easier to get root.
Okay.
Then.
Yeah, well, back then, right? Now,
so yep. When I did that jailbreaking, it was with full understanding that if I bricked the phone, I was SOL for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember those things about how to unbrick. Because even when I did it with my 6, my iPhone, or might have been my 4GS, that I was like, here's the risk, but I'm getting admin. Yep, let's see what I can do. Yep. And I jailbreak it just to see.
Entitlement. I mean, you've purchased the product; you should have admin rights. I don't know why that's a crazy thought.
Ken, we know we're in a world where we pay for access to the what is it they do? That you're not paying for the actual hardware and device and free access to, all the way back from old DVD players. They did this thing. You're paying for the way they choose to let you use the hardware that you purchased. You're only really paying for the license, not for the actual you own that. Come on now, that's been around forever.
Yeah. No, and you're 100. You're 100%.
But yes, I agree.
As soon as I plop down the money for that product, I ought to be able to use the product in whatever way I want to. And
yep,
it's just not.
I
agree.
Not the
way things are done, sadly.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
I speaking of the phone stuff, I actually have a little article I wanted to bring up, or maybe not an article, a new device that I'm particularly interested in. That was kind of going to be my main.
Hey, you wait! I'm not done talking about the iPhone.
Okay, fine.
You guys have been. Wow. We've been talking over it. Hey, all right, let me get this out, and then I'll let you bring up yours. So the only thing that really mattered about the Apple announcement, because no one cares about Siri, no one cares about their speaker, even though it sounds amazing, supposedly. It's the new phone. That's all they care about. So the 12 dropped, and they have basically, 4 SKUs that come out with it, other than all the various memory sizes, which is they came out with the iPhone 12, the base one, the iPhone 12 Pro, the iPhone 12 Mini, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. essentially, that they came out
What
with.
does all that mean?
What that translates to, the
In
base
reality.
iPhone is a 6.1 screen. It's OLED like all of their screens are. And it's, what did they do? That one had like a 64 gig memory up to, I think, 256. The mini, same, but a slightly smaller screen, and starts at a price point I want to say was as low. I got to double check it. But the mini, which is a slightly smaller screen, although they said it's basically the same real estate as their previous generation, they just got rid of bezels, changed the design such to give you more, so the touchscreen's the same size and such. They went to a new metal outside case again, so instead of like mine where it has kind of a plastic roundy thing, they went back to like a legit aluminum on the base, and on the Pro Max and Pros, they do a stainless steel case. They better antenna and stuff like that. It's a 5G phone now for the new line. It has the new A14 chip. So like always, although every time they announce it, it says the same thing. This chip you can do, but it is 5 nanometer. So it's the first mass produced 5 nanometer chip you can buy anywhere.
Tiny.
Yeah. 11.8 billion transistors. It's a 6-core CPU. And it's got, I forget, they said like 6, or I think the base one has like 4 megs of cache. The big one has 6 megs of cache, something like that. It's got a 4-core GPU in it, neural net engine, all this stuff. So like it is significantly faster. And so it should be able to do all the processing faster than it's done in the past, right? Awesome. Actually, no, the RTX 3000 is a 7 nanometer legend. So Kuro already got you there. So like I said, this is the first 4. The new system on the base model is a 2-camera system. On the Pro and the Max, they have a 3-camera system as well as a LiDAR sensor. And people are like, why do you need LiDAR? Both for mapping your physical phase, for the environment around you, and the big one for them, for the average person, is for tracking in low light. And so you're actually focusing in low light is supposed to be like 6 to 8 times faster than current phones. And you don't need to use like a flash or a pre-flash to be able to get that focus. So when you're actually trying to do real photographic type work, you can do it with that. They also talked about having built-in better functionality with HDR. You'll be able to actually record. I think this is only on the Maxes or the Pro versions. So Pro and Pro Max record in HDR. That the screen itself is 1000 nit HDR screen. So not only will you be able to consume HDR content, you'll be able to record HDR content, which sounds pretty damn cool. So for those who are into videography, into actual photography with your phone, as silly as that may sound, but I've done a surprising amount with mine. Anyone who saw my pictures of the clouds from the wildfires.
Yep, I'm a huge advocate of it. I think there's nothing wrong with taking photography on your phone these days. The phones are so powerful, and the price you're paying for them, you get good cameras on them.
Well, you're buying everyone, we're buying tricorders, right? That's what we're putting in our pocket now is tricorders. Because the devices we have intelligence, they have all these different sensors, they can connect to us. If you were to pair in the ecosystem an Apple Watch that also can do your biometrics and stuff, like your heart rate, all those things, you literally have a tricorder in your pocket.
Fitbit, yeah.
Yeah, all these things that we currently have. Wow, yay, technology and future that we are in. Another big thing that he changed, this is totally new for this, and I don't know if Android has an equivalent for this, but they built into it a magnetic system that allows you to actually click on things to the phone. And they showed it with cases. And when you have, like for me on my desk, I have one of the near field chargers that my phone has to I have to center it to get it to charge. Because it's magnetic, it'll actually pull and lock itself in the middle. They've also shown that not only can you put the cases on it and have it lock, that you can put a thing on the back side of the case and have it lock as well. And together they can charge back and forth. So theoretically, you could even have like a daughter board that you'd be able to put on to charge your earbuds, right? Your AirPods that Apple has, all through the same architecture. Of course, bigger battery, things like that. A whole bunch of other things built into it. So it's that to me kind of interesting as well for what they're doing with the tech. I haven't seen that in a different phone. I don't know if it matters. It's not like one thing, but it literally clicks in to your thing. So they also showed that it could be built in the phone. Those like car mounts and things you've seen like that have the magnetic mounts. Instead of having to buy the whole like extra thing, you could have one that just like connects to the phone. Now
that's great, but honestly, in terms of tech and stuff, that's such a I don't know. Like, that's something that I feel like should have been there from the get-go years ago, and isn't that impressive? They just looked at the market and what people are purchasing as accessories, and they just put it into the phone.
It's one of those few times. It's one of those few times I say that's something that is Apple first over Android. Just saying. So here's the thing with the Mini.
Okay.
The old phone was a 4.7 with a huge bezel. This is a 5.1 touchscreen, but it's actually smaller than the, what was that, the 8 or something they were showing with the Mini. What else? Oh, so there, the Mini is going to start at $700 basically, with the iPhone 12 at $800. So not inexpensive, but granted, if you look at most smartphones, even the top ends from other companies, they're still massively expensive. What else did the Pro Max have? Like I said, it has better cameras, more elements to it. And
so what kind of specs with the camera?
Let's see. On the 12, regular 12, it's a 12 megapixel that they're doing. On the Pro Max, I'm trying to remember what else they did. They have it's a faster camera. I think it's down to a 1 point. What was it? Let's see if they say it. Screwing ahead. Let's see. New 6.1 screen. All the nits, or 1200 nits. I was wrong. All 4 cameras, including the LiDAR, are all maxed out. Okay, so here we go. You have a 2.4 aperture one that's 120 degree field of view. That's got a 5-element lens, all the insert. A 1.6 aperture wide, that's 12 megapixels, 7-element. Optical stabilization.
12 megapixels?
12. And then another 12 megapixel telephoto. And part of the thing they're also doing is for those shots that are kind of in between shots with 12 megapixel, they're doing the whole AI thing where it's like stacking stuff. So you're getting arguably higher when you have stuff in between. Image stabilization, great. Sensor shift is what they're using for that. They're finally adding a version of RAW called Apple Pro RAW, so that instead of you having to use external apps or something to do it, they're going to support a level of RAW image format directly within the phone. Like I said, the HDR video recording up to 10-bit HDR, Dolby Vision HDR. Again, the LiDAR is going to do 40 or 4K 60 FPS. So again, all that. If you're actually building something, if you're recording and using the cameras for it. Cool. The LiDAR is supposed to help for things like AR, because it'll be able to physically see distance from the camera in the world instead of interpreting it from the cameras. So AR type applications should be huge. Face mapping should honestly work really well. And for silly applications like me trying to look around my house and do stuff.
I like the AR stuff. That's all super neat, and the software side of it, I'm very interested in. I gotta say, the camera specs, I'm pretty disappointed in though. For the Pro, I was expecting something better than that.
Well, you say that, but one of the things I still run into, right, is I still have shot photos with my old Canon 20 at 8 megapixel that look great, because while it's an 8 megapixel sensor, it's still a 3/4 frame sensor, and so for the size you're getting, where you have cameras from Android that'll do what the big ones are 100 megapixel or something like that. But the actual physical size of your cell means that there's tons of more digital noise. And so higher resolution without actual color depth and things like that. You know, when you're doing photography, right, the bigger the sensor is what matters more than the megapixel. And one of the things on the Pro series...
You'll be able to capture the actual data, right?
Well, but even right now, in landscape photography, they have high megapixel. In like portrait photography, it's usually larger sensor, megapixel. That's why the 1D series from Canon only goes up to, I want to say, what are they still, an 18 megapixel camera or something for their top most expensive camera they make? That's like $8,000, where their cheaper $4,000 camera does like 50 megapixel. It depends on what you're shooting. And so it's not just megapixel that matters. And this is why we need to have our photography show. Talk all the logistics of that. But so that's not the issue, right? It'll be interesting to see how it all combines, but they're showing that a lot of the processing stuff should make much prettier images. So separate of all of that, right? It just shows that that's the new big thing from Apple. New phone. That's all I think most people truly care about each year. Most people aren't as big about their laptops, their desktops at all. I think it almost sounds like their desktops they don't even care. That it's almost all about some of their, like Todd's, you know, their watch was the big one from last one and their iPad. And then this one is the speaker and the phone. So that's what Apple put out there, but it's a big hit. I will admit, it seems like everybody's trying to tempt me into one because I've been on my 10 since launch and I skipped the 11 line. So they're like, we will give you massive discounts on a 12. In fact, if I were to get a regular 12, they swear they'll give it to me for free. We'll see. So I'm curious to see it's because signing up for 2 years and blah, 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 all that stuff.
Yeah, I know. So my phone runs out this December. and I've still got a British contract that I'm doing over here because I have unlimited, right? And why would I possibly? And it's probably it's
international, and so you're getting no fees.
Yeah, right. I can just do whatever I want anywhere in the world, and it's fine, right? So I kind of like that. So this December I can upgrade though, and you know, so far I'm leaning towards not upgrading. I'm thinking about just getting a reduced price per month and saving some money, because why wouldn't I, right? I mean, I really do like my phone. I have an S9 Plus, a Samsung S9 Plus. It's powerful. It's fine. I've had zero problems with it. I don't use a case, and it's got zero damage. No damage at all. It's gorgeous. It's such a beautiful phone, and you know, I've dropped it a bunch of times. You know, on hard surfaces.
As I say, I've actually worked mine over, and it's still happy.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with how versatile the phones are these days. But I decided to have a quick look at it because I tried to pay my phone bill earlier this week, and they redirected me to the upgrade page because they saw that I was, you know, like, hey, do if you want to.
How have you not come here already on your own?
I know, right? So I had a look, and the one thing that caught my eye was the Samsung S20 Ultra.
Ooh.
So for those of you who don't know, the Ultra came out in February, I think. This is currently Samsung's flagship phone. It's their most expensive one. So I noticed that if I was to go in the UK, I'll translate to dollars on the fly here. If I was to get the standard Samsung S20 in the UK, it would be $50 a month. If I was to go for the next, I can't remember what the three are called, the S20 Plus, it was like $65, and the S20 was like $85, right? So it's a big jump up. But I was like, what are you getting for this? And then I looked at the specs. Oh my God. Now, here's a nice little article. It's probably biased because it's from AndroidAuthority.com. However, I believe it's just specs. Yep.
Can we take a break and come back with the specs?
Sure.
Okay. Because it is appropriate time, and Ionis will cut me if I don't give him a chance to relieve any bio needs for a break, since we're already running far into it.
The winged hussars will start to descend from the mountaintop, and you don't want that.
So why would I be in trouble?
So after the break here, we're going to get the specs from the Android side of things to counter what Apple talked about, and Ken talking about what he is tempted by. But with that, you're watching ShowX here on VtWProductions.com and on Twitch.tv, VtWShowX. Please feel free to share us out to your friends, help us grow, and email us in about anything you've been seeing the last week about tech that you'd like us to talk about, or what your thoughts are about what we've been saying already. I like that. Iona says, I have an inherited Hordax bladder. And so for his benefit, we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back right after this with one of my favorite OC remix songs, this one being The Road to Tycho Station, a remix of a Moon Patrol song here as we take a break. And so we'll be back right after this, everyone, in just over 3 minutes.
listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. All right. As I checked real time during the breaks, it's like, you know, one of those consumables I didn't realize was a consumable when I bought it. But when I got my grill, my nice gas Kenmore big grill that I have outside, being a gas grill, it diffuses the energy of it with these little like triangular slats. Apparently, those will disintegrate over time with heat and energy. And I found I went out there to use one, and it was it was completely destroyed. And I found you can buy replacements, like so many things, on Amazon for $15 Prime and get it the next day.
Yep.
And so I got replacement ones, and I'm so happy I found those. But yeah, it was one of those things. I went out to use my grill, and one of them just disintegrated, and I was like, "What?" Sorry. Anyway, hopefully,
while we're doing a very short tangent, I also would like to point out that last night at 1:30 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to the sound of smashing, looked outside, and all of my pumpkins were getting smashed by a bunch of kids.
Oh, I saw your post, and that was so annoying. And I say that because after the show, I'm doing pumpkin carving with friends today.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was just good. Come on, how like young kids, teenagers?
Oh no, they're I assume students, right? But like, they were like gleeful, and my window was open, so I leaned out and said, "You guys are assholes!" Like, and they looked at me and they went, "Oh." I suppose a minor swear. They went, "Oh shit," and they all ran off. And I was just like, why do you why? I was so pleased. This is the first Halloween where I actually bought pumpkins. It's the first Halloween in the US. I actually decorated. It's my wife's favorite holiday. I was excited just to have some Halloween-y stuff about. Come on, it's pandemic. I've been stuck inside my apartment for 8 months, and I finally decorated something a little bit different. And these assholes got 2 minutes of pleasure, 20 seconds of pleasure to do that.
No, it reminded me of how lucky I am to live in the neighborhood I am. I see reports every year of people who lose their pumpkins, people grabbing them, throwing down the street, stuff like that. I think that happened to me once in the basically 16, 17 years I've lived here. And so, or whatever, like 15 years I've lived here, that's like, thank goodness I'm in a nice, quiet, good neighborhood. Yeah.
Oh, this is a nice area, but it's student-y. So you get all the
students. Yeah, students can be pricks. So, anyhow, Ken, you were going to talk to us a little bit about the Android side and what's been teasing you when it comes to technology with that. Please continue.
Yeah, so I was looking at the Samsung S20 because I do like Samsung phones. I've got a little bit of a Samsung ecosystem here because our main TV is Samsung, and that's so nice to be able to do the screen mirroring. We do that frequently. You know, if we have a friend over or if Ken Feature's sister's visiting, we want to share videos, we can all do that easily by just, hitting share, boom, on the screen, nice and easy. I love that. And Samsung TVs are some of the, in my opinion, some of the best that you can get for the price. So it's the best quality per dollar, I think. So I like that little ecosystem, so I was really tempted to stay inside Samsung, and I was looking at what they had available. So the S20 Plus, this actually, I just realized this is the Plus and not the Ultra. I was hoping to see the difference between the Ultras, actually. Is it here?
As you're looking for that, I will say that I'm trying to be good and to keep my phone until it does die, but it's also on the edge of dying because it stopped doing facial recognition with one of the front cameras. One of the times I dropped it in water where it's supposed to be water resistant. That apparently wasn't. And so part of my goal is if the turn-in reaches enough to get a new phone and I can do it before the phone dies, and so therefore I get more money back from it, that might be something that puts me over the edge of whether or not I get a newer phone. Like, what value can I get out of my current in the upgrade path versus eventually just holding mine until it can't work and then I have to pay full price for one. So, balancing. You find it, Ken?
So I just went to phonesdata.com and you can actually just choose them in there. So I've done that. What's the best? As iPhone Pro Max, I'm guessing, is the best iPhone.
The Pro Max 12 will be the new big one. 512 gig is the most storage it has. Apple phones still do not have external storage you can add in, so you can't put an additional. It's only what you buy internal. But yeah, so I think it's like $1,400 or something.
Yeah, so that's me now. Okay, so I'm comparing the best iPhone right now with the best Samsung, and I generally don't know what the differences are, so I'm curious to see. I'm not going to bother sharing it. I'll just talk it through. So the new Apple one came out obviously on October 13th, whereas the latest Samsung flagship came out in February. They're about the same weight, both weighing in about 225 grams. There's 3 grams difference on each side of that for them. They're both built with Gorilla Glass and with a type of metal frame. The iPhone is using the stainless steel frame, whereas the Samsung is using the aluminum frame. The actual battery life, I don't know why this is saying that the iPhone has Li-ion battery, but it doesn't have an mAh level for some reason. I don't know what it actually is. It's saying it can do up to 20 hours with multimedia, up to 80 hours with music. So that's pretty good with iPhone. Whereas the Samsung has 500 mAh, which is the highest I've actually seen on a phone yet. The iPhone is coming in at €1,200, and the Samsung S20 is coming in at €1,350. So it's actually more expensive to get the best Samsung device at the moment than the best iPhone, even though the iPhone is newer than the Samsung.
Interesting.
In terms of what's inside them, this is a crappy. I'm sorry. This website I found is quite. Like, I looked at the processor section, and it says for the iPhone, it says Hexa-core. That's all the details it's giving me. Hexa-core.
It's a 6-core, their newest system. Yeah, I forget.
Sure, but they're not telling me the gigahertz.
No, well, I don't know if anyone's figured out how fast it's running yet, because I don't think they specifically stated it. They said 11.8 billion transistors, but they didn't say a speed on it yet.
Okay, so we know exactly that makes more sense now. I understand the article more. I apologize; it's not a bad article.
It's a bad pen.
The Samsung phone
host.
Is Octa-Core.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? So the Samsung phone is Octa-Core, so it comes with 8 cores compared to the iPhone 6. So you do get a little bit more there depending on the speeds. We'll see the difference there. The graphics processor, the Samsung has a Mali G77 MP11. An Adreno 650, whereas the Apple one just says Apple GPU 4-core. So we don't know yet. I think that's pretty cool, by the way.
No. Apple makes their own proprietary versions. That's the difference. And so with Apple, the problem is, that's the problem, isn't you have to actually test it. Because they're using their own architecture. It doesn't translate directly to what the Android ones are. Whereas Android, the reason they do have the specific specs on what they're doing is because you can compare handset to handset to handset, because they're all using the basic same hardware, then clock speeds and stuff like that matter. It's just like when we do the conversation between Nvidia and AMD, when it comes to either the processors or the video cards, gigahertz matters and all the numbers matter, but until I get my FPS in game, you really don't know how they compare. And that's the challenge.
Yeah.
It's not directly apples to apples.
But still, you think they'd at least try and compare some of the figures that are available, even if they're not complete direct comparisons, at least to give you a vague idea, right? So
but Apple has no reason to release it, right? Apple has no reason to tell you gigahertz numbers. Because they're just like, you're going to buy an Apple and it's going to run this well. And you're not going to be able to truly compare it in an Apple device until you get like a specific app and how it compares on both.
And that's not entirely true, because I would consider buying an Apple device if it proved to be a better, price per dollar. That's what it comes down to for me. If I can get a newish device that has a good processor, good graphics, and a good screen, and it's a bit cheaper than the alternatives, then I'll go for it. I don't really care if it's Apple or not. But I generally find that the Apple stuff is more expensive, so I don't, right? And the fact they do this kind of crap where they don't actually give you any of the details is depressing.
What they do is they compare to their previous generation. That's the challenge, right? Because you got to realize Apple doesn't believe Android's their competition. Apple's competition is previous Apple. that is part of the thing. I mean, seriously, because people who are in the Apple architecture, that's their customer. They're selling to the person who's going to buy the entire ecosystem. I'm the anomaly where I have the phone and that's it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like I only have gadgets.
Yep.
Yeah. The screens for the difference between the two phones, they both
you can compare.
Capacitive. Yeah, they're both capacitive touch screens. Both have got 16 million colors, which is exactly what you'd expect anyway. The screen size is slightly larger on the Samsung, as well as the screen area. Which
one of the biggest advantages that other phones have is they tend not to have as severe a notch as Apple does, where they legitimately, for anyone who hasn't seen, The notch is that whole place at the top of my phone where there's the cameras and stuff like that, where they still display information around the edges. And theoretically, you can watch a video that will go to those edges, and it's dumb. Where
yeah, I've never seen the appeal of that personally. I feel like that'd be
it's
a constant
how
irritant.
It's how do you put a forward-facing camera on it for selfies? That is the whole thing about that notch. Some like they're saying we have a display that goes to the extent the camera comes into the sum. Some will build a camera bar or a full thing external to it, so the camera's a little bigger or the phone is a little bigger, and it's just got a black bar essentially. That's how they do it. It's just like with fingerprint readers, how there's a handful of companies that have done under screen fingerprint readers
That's
so
what I was
far,
about to say.
or how Android does behind of case fingerprint readers, where currently Apple has said we don't do fingerprint readers anymore, which a lot of people have been annoyed with. I liked the thumb thing. And theoretically, or some people rumored saying the 13 may have under screen fingerprint readers again. So many things.
As it should. It's such a neat idea, and it's so simple, and it's a quick way of unlocking a phone. I hate putting in a pin, and I hate facial recognition as well because it's so poor in various lighting forms. The screen looks like it's a little better on the Samsung. Most importantly, for me personally, is the resolution and the PPI. There's more PPI on the Samsung with 511 with only 458 in the Apple. So there's about 70 difference there in pixels per inch. And the same with the screen resolution. The screen resolution on the Android device is 1440 by 3200, whereas on iPhone it's 1284 by 2778. So it's a fair chunk less. So you might get a much nicer screen on the Samsung device than you would on the Apple one. The glass looks nice. There's HDR10 plus on the Samsung device. It's got always on display, 120 hertz at full HD, 60 hertz at QHD, which I'm guessing is what they call that resolution.
Whatever their full resolution is, yeah.
Yeah. The iPhone one does have HDR10, but not HDR10 plus. However, it does have Dolby Vision, which is quite nice. But it is missing a lot of other specs as well.
Well, it's getting very tit for tat with features there because it depends on what you're using the device for. And for me personally, I've yet to see anything that's been compelling from an Android device. It's like, oh my God, this is so much better. Why would you ever continue with the Apple ecosystem? And I've yet to find it.
Let's go into the camera then. Okay, so on the Apple one, there are 4 different cameras, kind of.
3 optical and a LiDAR.
Yeah. So the LiDAR is there. We don't have any further specs on that. There's a wide angle, which is 12 megapixel with an aperture of 1.626 millimeter, as you mentioned before. There's also a 12 megapixel with an aperture of 2.2 with 65 millimeter telephoto, and there's a 12 megapixel aperture 2.4 ultra wide. Kind of lackluster apertures. The megapixel is quite poor, and like you said, the hardware might be nicer. So we can
it's just the megapixels accurate for the size of the sensor, because it's again not all about how many megapixels you pick on a sensor.
Okay. On the Samsung side, we have 108 megapixel with an aperture of 1.8, which is quite nice.
And when you look at it, it looks like garbage.
Show me these images that you say are telling me look like garbage. And show me the difference between that and the newest Apple one, which, by the way, we only have their professionally touched up images that we can look at.
So that's what you get from any of them.
No, right now this phone has been out since February. You can Google it and you can go to Flickr and search by images that are only taken on that phone, that device, and you can see all of the images that are taken on that device. You can't do it with Apple.
So you can get rigorous in the world figures. That is an inappropriate or an invalid argument.
So, I'm sorry, you robot all the way through that for me.
But here's the big thing I'll say about megapixels. Having something that just takes up more space and doesn't give you any quality of image difference makes no sense. The only reason you need massive megapixels is landscape photography, especially when you might do cropping or when you're going to print something out a massive size, because an 8 megapixel image can print a poster sized photo and look amazing. 108 megapixel buys you nothing. Nothing, unless you're going to print a wallpaper-sized, like 10-foot long or bigger image from your 108 megapixel camera.
Okay, but
it means nothing.
Yeah, but we
or if you're going to zoom into,
well, let me talk with the hardware.
I'm just saying, 108 megapixel means nothing. It's just a big number. Come on, Ken, you're a photographer.
I know that, and that's why that was only my first point. It has the ability to store more information, is all I'm saying. Right now, when we go into the telephoto part, this is the part that's really interesting to me as a photographer. The Apple version only gives you 65 millimeter with optical zoom, whereas the Samsung one gives you 103 millimeter, which is basically 50% more zoom, which is really nice. It also has a 10 times hybrid optical zoom, whereas iPhone only has 2.5 times. So you can really make the most of the hardware there and all those fancy, beautiful megapixels. With look at him rolling his eyes, because you actually have a really nice telephoto lens on that, from what I can see. Additionally, let's see the last one here, the ultra wide. They both have an ultra wide. The Samsung one has a slightly better aperture, and is also 12 megapixel. To be fair, in this instance. And the other stuff I don't think really matters that much. It's all about equivalent. So they're all, in terms of the specs for the cameras, you're right. The Samsung does have bloat in the sense of the megapixels, right? I'm not disagreeing. However, the telephoto lens is a fair bit better, though slightly worse in the aperture. Although personally, I don't know why I'd want to fiddle with the aperture so much in telephoto. But I like the fact that the aperture is good on both of them. Otherwise, in general. The video on both looks pretty good. There are more options available on the Samsung and slightly higher quality, but you get more. You get Dolby as well inbuilt into the iPhone. So there's loads more specs and comparisons between them. I'm not going to go into it because the rest of it is quite dull. But those are the things that really interested me. Now the difference is when we look at the price point, right? That's the thing that's really interesting. $1,350 for the new Samsung, $1,220 for the new iPhone. Frankly, I wouldn't spend that much on either. So it's kind of a redundant point, I guess. But if I had that kind of money and I had to spend it on a phone, I guess I would probably be more tempted towards the Samsung just because it has a slightly nicer screen, which is one of the main things for me. I mean, what do you do with your phone other than look at it, right? Watching videos, playing games and such.
So when you say that about the screen, right, what content is made at over like 4K? And even then, 4K at what distance matters?
As somebody who uses a 5K every single day.
I have a 4K 56-inch monitor, and I will tell you, sitting all of arm's distance away from it, it's higher resolution than I can see or do anything with. So you put 4K into this screen, like to be equivalent, I have to either watch it, literally to make it the same size as my current 4K screen, I have to bring it right here. So if I'm watching content at 6 inches from my face, right, I can now equivalent to that 4K experience. That makes no sense. You don't need that much pixels in a screen this big. You don't.
That reminds me of the old argument of, you can't even see more than 24 FPS. Why would you care?
Well, that's what Legend tried to say.
The console kiddies would use.
That's what Legend tries to say, but there's actual legitimate science behind it. And Linus Tech, I give Linus a lot of credit. They've done the measurement between monitor response, click response off your mouse to when you actually see response back. That, yes, 60 frames per second, arguably what you can or can't see. Professional gamers have proven that over 100 hertz matters. And they've shown that now in the newest screens, the 300 hertz screens that are now on the market, the actual pixel response from when you click the button to when you see the action happen on screen does come in at less than half the time that it takes when you have even a 200 hertz monitor. And so even if it's not that you can see the exact moment, because one of the things I always say about refresh, you're not in sync with 60 frames per second, right? What you envision, what you see is at some rate, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's in the exact sync as your monitor. So anything that puts it faster into your screen means you're going to be able to interpret it quicker. So in the same thing with the monitor, yes, you could put more pixels on the screen, but if you have to get like microscopic close to see those pixels, does it matter? That's the question.
Well, the screen's bigger as well. To be fair, it's not trying to pack in the same amount of space as the iPhone.
By how much?
Well, by how much? What pixels?
Is it bigger? No, physically larger. To go from what, a half-inch wider overall, it gives you what difference in how close you're going to have it to your face. Again, the problem we have is like any manufacturing, it's just even like in the TV market. Who needs an 8K set? Who? Nobody. I mean, unless you're pushing an 80-inch or taller or bigger monitor or screen, 8K makes no sense at all. It's just like having 4K on a 27-inch monitor. To me, makes no sense. It's why if I get a 4K, it needs to be 32 or bigger. Otherwise, it's just you're just packing more pixel for no sense. It's like having a laptop that has a 4K display, but it's 17-inch laptop. At that point, it's just like, why? Why? You're paying for a bigger number. It's a sales pitch. It's a sales pitch. It doesn't do you any good.
Though, because you do hold screens pretty close to your face pretty frequently. I know when I'm sitting on a train or a bus, I do tend to have it about here, right? Like less than a foot from my eye.
I am almost always no closer than like arm's distance.
So you don't use your phone at all on an airplane or something, say?
On a plane, I set it down on the tray. In front of me, it's at that distance.
Yeah,
well,
I have a
foot away.
I have a tablet if I'm going to watch anything. Oh wait, I always bring my Switch with me on business trips, so I am not using my phone at all.
Well, again, that's a use case for the Switch. Why I don't own one? But if you don't own one, you can also look at the emulation market like you do.
Yeah, well, so you can always buy a DS and get basically the same experience for significantly less money. Or that.
Emulate. The beautiful thing is the Nintendo Switch Pro controller does Bluetooth wireless to a PC and works quite well. So depending on how you're on the PC, you can do everything like your Xbox One S Elite type controller, not Elite, but regular Xbox One S controller, or even a Nintendo Pro controller, and using software. What was the name of the actual software? Shoot, I had it right here. You can actually still get motion control from the Pro controller. And anytime you may need motion controls.
That's clever.
They even do it with the PS4 Pro controller as well, or the PS4 controllers that have motion can also use the same software. Heads up. I mean, even if you were to maybe emulate stuff. So yes.
Okay.
I can play The Binding of Isaac on my business trips. That's really all I care about.
So back to what we were saying, though, right? The phones. To be honest, we can't really compare them because Apple is so stingy about releasing the specs, information, and usage photos of what can be done by their new phone. So which is a bit of a shame because you can't really make a decision.
What I'm going to say, Ken, my advocation is wait for people to do reviews and actually compare them directly, because just like the Nvidia, AMD, or AMD Intel conversation, because right. Kuro said earlier, we just got the new series of AMD processors, main CPUs that are coming out. And in initial specs, it looks like they're actually going to be beating Intel in a lot of categories, which hasn't happened in years. Thank you, AMD, for stepping up to the challenge. Hopefully, they'll do it on the processor for our GPU side as well and actually compete against Nvidia. I want competition. I think it needs to be there for people to push. Intel's been sitting on its laurels for years now because AMD hasn't been a real challenge. And so finally AMD came up saying, we can do this. So I want real competition. So wait for those reviews, wait for people to see, apple to apples directly next to each other, which gives the better experience, then invest your money. Nobody needs to buy something at launch. You're not going to get enough of a deal that you need to be the early adopter. It is okay to wait and let people who get paid or people who are gifted or given technology to do their reviews for you to get an insight into what things are doing so that you can make a more informed decision. Todd, you look baited to answer something with that.
This consumer advice brought to you by ShowX. Let the shills do the work first.
They're the ones getting paid for it.
Hey,
they're not.
Amen to that. All I'm saying. I'm
if
not
anybody
saying,
would like to advertise
I'm
and
just
give
saying.
ShowX hardware to review, we are happy to do so.
Oh, yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
if you do it in whatever way Linus Tech Tips has been able to figure it out, or Linus Media Group's been able to figure out where they get to keep it and use it in their own homes. Happy
That's right.
to try to work with the new ISO 56-inch 4K monitor that they now have on the market. I will compare it to the old one sitting on my desk. If you want to donate to ShowX your $60,000 medical grade monitor, I will compare it to the one that is the old model and let all the medical professionals know what they should use.
To be fair, there's probably not many channels on YouTube doing that. You may as well shoot them an email.
Hey, I missed the case. I missed CES. Back when people actually were able to talk to me in person, I had people offer me things. I was gifted my Black Rapid strap for my camera. Zotac said they would happily send me their mini computers to review. Apparently, when people talk to me in person, they're like, ooh, Toby gave me their eye tracking bar for free because they were like, I just told them I think this is cool and how you could use tech. Apparently, me in person, people want to give me hardware.
Apparently
Damn it,
so.
I miss hardware conventions.
It was 2010, 2011. But yeah.
I digress. Actually, I was gonna say Leap Motion did it too. When I got my Leap Motion hand tracker, they gave me that for free.
Nice.
Or no, maybe I got that cheap. I don't know. Anyhow,
so I believe we've gotten to a point where we've only got 20 minutes left in the show, and I covered the main thing I want to talk about, which is the Samsung S20 and the comparison to the new iPhone.
Hey, Steam. Everybody, if you haven't done it, Sega is currently doing a big 60th anniversary thing on Steam. In doing so, they're giving you tons of discounts, because we love our discounts because PC Master Race, as well as they're even including a couple free titles. Some of the things they're including are Streets of Rage, Yakuza Mashup game, as well as an unreleased version of Golden Axe, which went on for free today. If you go onto Steam, you can grab it today. As well as, was it Armor of Heroes, I think is the other title. But they have those free, as well as a ton of games out there for very cheap. I've seen as high as like 85, if not 90% off. I think Sonic 2 they gave for free at one point, although I already had it. And some of the other games were as low as like $2 or $3. So if you haven't already in the past tilled yourself with Steam sales and acquired most of the Sega collection, now's a good time. So I wanted to throw that out there because yay Sega, yay 60 years. Was it just in general? Yep, 60th anniversary.
Yes.
Thank you for things like Phantasy Star for the copies out there in the world, as well as things like Altered Beast and other things you brought to market. Yay Sega. So check that out. We love Steam. We love deals. That's out there right now. That was one I wanted to make sure I got out there because it's timely.
Abacab is my up, down, left, right, BA select start.
Oh, I never owned any of the old Sega consoles or anything. Because they had three buttons, right?
The code for Altered Beast was Abacab.
I did not know that. I always did the up, down, left, right, BA select start type thing, or select, as well as I always did the 0073735963. Do you remember that one?
What's that for?
It was an in-game code. And I'm actually, thank you to Wine for letting that roll off my tongue like it did. Mike Tyson.
Punch Out. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out directly to Tyson. Wow, I said that. I was right. Holy crap. Yeah.
I still remember the old Grand Theft Auto original San Andreas cheat codes as well.
Well, I was actually talking cheat codes recently with people because see if you remember this one, Todd. IDFKF or IDFKFA? IDKFA.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, that was Doom, the old Doom cheat codes. The first place I ran into cheat codes at all. Because I don't know if I'm sure there were some, but I never ran into any of the Wolfenstein ones. But Doom, I did know God mode, unlimited ammo, walk through walls, no clipping mode. Oh.
Yep. I found in Fallout 4, I found a lever action rifle, a legendary lever action rifle that does not have has an infinite clip. So I was playing the character that I named Commander Customize. So of course I had to name that gun and I named that gun IDKFA.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Fantastic. Good stuff. Thanks for the heads up on that Streets of Rage clone. Streets of Camarocho.
Japanese
Streets
words.
of Camarocho, because it looks like it was built in Streets of Rage 2.
Nice. It was basically like
looks
one
like
of
it
their.
was built in Streets of Rage 2, and if it was built in Streets of Rage 2, hell yes. Give me that. Give me all of that.
Other tech things, just so that I have no idea where this is going to go. I'm super excited because of what we do. Nvidia is doing more goodness, and I think this is coming out of what they were doing with broadcasts currently in the 3000 series stuff and Nvidia Voice. What I'm using on a 10 series card, but it's supposed to be their 2000 series. They are releasing a new technology that's supposed to, and maybe it makes sense, with the way we're doing teleconferencing and things like that today. They're trying to improve meetings and technology like Zoom and anything. And what they're doing, it's a video compression technique they're using that is supposed to drop the usage of video signals on your regular, just what you're doing streaming, to like less than 10% of what you're currently doing for the same quality. Actually, even less than that.
Okay, that's hella impressive.
Example they're using is H.264 versus AI video compression, because they're using the same machine learning type things, going from 97 kilobit per frame to less than 1/10 or about 1/10 of a kilobit per frame. Like 1,000-time performance increase in bandwidth compression. I say this because we happen to use a video conference technology here on ShowX. We happen to use Microsoft Skype to be able to converse and put our videos together into the stream you watch. And you hear and see the little hiccups that happen, because right now as I'm streaming with an old, granted old, the 6850K Intel processor that is a 6-core hyper-threaded, so 12 hyper-thread core processor running at 3.5 gigahertz, Skype is taking up almost 15% of my CPU load, anywhere from like 12 to 15% as we're on the call. So to be able to go from like this pixelated mess of H.264 to a nice quality stream that you guys could see using essentially machine learning and potentially our graphics cards, I'm a fan of. And I think this is coming significantly from essentially the fact that in pandemic, right, the press to be virtual and to actually see people's faces in video conferences has jumped in how much people care. So I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm like, hells yes, bring this technology out there. Because even if this goes further to when I'm doing a video, just pulling video and putting it onto a stream or something like that, if it takes less bandwidth, done. I'm all about it. And so, yeah, just throwing that out there. Some technology I ran into, like tripped over, as I'm following things that could improve the quality of our show. That's something I'm all about. Also, they say because they're using the AI machine learning, mapping it onto digital characters and things like that becomes even easier. So people who like to use, Snapchat filters and other stuff like that, take it to an extreme. But the nice thing is this kind of rendering technology can be done on any kind of essentially video stream. And so I wanted to share that with everybody.
That's super cool. I mean, I'd like to see the environmental impacts of that, because basically the question for me would be, does it affect the environment more to have your processor running faster and potentially your graphics card running to do that sort of machine learning on the fly? Or is it worse for the environment to actually send those signals around the world over and over constantly per second, right? I'd be curious to know. So
arguably, I don't know, the challenge of how much wattage I pull out of my computer at any given time, I will admit, is not something I have thrown out there at all. Maybe it's because I'm, I don't know, first world issues. Yay, solar power. But that is never a consideration of mine, unless I'm doing like actual Bitcoin mining or some kind of e-currency mining where I'm constantly running my CPU full throttle all day, 24/7. I never think about the environmental impacts of me gaming or playing on this show.
Well, I should certainly mention then, because I was sent an article by a colleague of mine a few months back, And it was really fascinating because it basically said that so a lot of the work we do, we'll produce like a new machine learning or algorithm or test a new one out or try an old one again, whatever, right? And we're often comparing various ones against each other. And to really compare something, you need to try it on the best, available computing power, right? So we have high-powered computing clusters, which are basically big, powerful computers. They're all linked together and are part of the university's infrastructure, right? And the problem is, if you use your HPC and say you're using like 10 different nodes, each with like, I don't know, a bunch of Nvidia card titans in them or something, and they're all running super fast for like 3 days, and then you go, that was silly, I forgot to use the right parameter or whatever, I'll have to run that again. It's no big deal on your end. You just, have to set the command on your computer. You don't think anything of it. But the environmental impact is actually quite high. The amount of carbon output from electricity usage is actually, and the heat output is surprisingly high. And if you then consider all researchers across the world, all data scientists, all corporations are doing this, there's actually a surprising chunk of environmental damage being done by my kind of work. And so that's and after having read the article, I thought, wow, this is actually, hopefully that'll become part of our studies in the future. How to reduce the costs.
Ken, this is why you just subscribed to the new, like when AMD came out with their most recent supercomputer chip line. Crud, I forget the name of them right now off the top of my head. Not the consumer level, but the actual full-on supercomputer level. Shoot, I forget. Anyhow, when they did, they showed how you could take what would have initially compute time and cost would have taken up an entire floor, or like, I forget how many racks of space condensed into a single rack.
Yeah.
The nice thing is, thankfully, in this world where we are doing constant progression in technology, smaller production size for our chips and things like that, we're actually reducing costs and improving performance constantly. We're doing it every day. And so it depends. Sure. If we were to stay that stagnant and like trying to do more work on the same hardware, yes, that'd be an issue. But every generation of hardware that comes out is more efficient than the previous. And so I think, in a way, this is because I'm lazy, I don't have to worry about it, because as long as I upgrade my hardware, I'm doing better anyways. I'm more economically
more efficient. You might find it's 10% more efficient than before, but you're also adding like quadruple the speed. So you're getting 25% less times 4 of your overall cost, right? So it's still not worth it in the end, right?
Perhaps. No, I think, so like we talked about at the top of the show, allowing people to spend more effort on the front to back impact of all the things we do, I will say I agree with as a whole. And that way we can all have better information on describing whether something actually meets the level of our priority for whether we should take on a new way of doing things, a new process, a new activity, or whatever it is. And the more information we can have about the holistic cost of it, the better across the board. And I say that because screw that. I'm still going to run my 850 watt power supply and game all day. It's worth it to me.
Well, there's a trade-off. You have to work out what that trade-off is for you personally. And I think so long as you aren't like running overnight with malice in mind, and the fact that you're using solar panels is already way better than the majority of the Western world, so I don't think we could fairly berate you for that.
I still pull from the grid a pretty decent amount. Although, as Hando says in the chat, when it comes to my carbon footprint with games, I just enter a code on my PC, ID GAF. So
I know that code.
You're right.
That code is when what's her face? Gosh, why can't I think of her name now? Like the environmental Pippi Longstocking. Gosh darn it.
Greta? Greta.
Yeah.
Greta Thunberg Incorporated. When she starts shouting at me, how dare I just type IDGAF in real quick, and
it's
like
I
she
said.
Auto mutes.
It's like I said in the pre-show for anyone who is watching.
In fact, she auto mutes and sends me a T-shirt.
As I said in the pre-show, right? I am trying to do my little bits to do some things better. I'm trying to get more to reuse versus recycle, because in the U.S. we don't actually recycle anything. We ship it all to third world countries. and they strip some things and throw the rest in the ocean. So I'm trying to do my part to minimize just straight landfill trash and recycle. That's me. But I mean, hey, there's some levels of, it's all balanced. All right. I have two more things, depending if you guys have anything burning. One.
No, go ahead.
More rumors about Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Unfortunately, may be pushed till 2021, but I am looking forward to because I've not really touched Mass Effect, and I would love to do a remastered version of the first one I play with. More, you guys read, you do books. Ken, heck, you just introduced a new show last week talking about books that if you guys haven't watched on Wednesdays, and I think you're going to keep going through that, you guys last one did Stepford Wives, right? As you guys talk through, and you and Kitten features, for those who don't get nearly enough Kitten features, in which case you don't get nearly enough, beautiful young gal, and you should check out their show. What was it called, Ken? Something Book Nook?
Yeah, so it's called the Novelty Book Nook. We
Novelty Book Nook.
Talk about books.
Outstanding. On the line of books, something I want to throw out there is I have been recently reading, because I never actually read it the first time, Dune for the first time.
Oh, brilliant!
Big old sci-fi.
I read it this year for the first time too.
Good, because timeliness, and I'm going to share a little bit, and we'll get yelled at for it. There's a new movie coming out from Legendary.
Yeah, the trailer for the 2021 Dune.
It looks good.
Because I have watched the 80s Dune with Sting. That was decent and surprisingly good for the time it was made. I have watched the sci-fi mini episode Dune, which was okay, a little different, but apparently closer to the book in some ways. This one, I don't know what you guys think, but watching the trailer and reading it again now, and thank goodness to the modernization of technology you can do in a sci-fi world and actually display on screen.
It looks badass.
Right?
Really.
Like I saw it and went, ooh.
My goodness.
And in fact, looked over at the Mistress of Giggles and said, hey, by the way, Dune remake.
Right?
Like, I don't even have to whisper myself in monologue to figure out whether or not I'm actually going to go see that.
Yeah,
oh, man.
Reddit. Check out the Reddit subreddit for Dune, because their membership increased by like 5,000% in the past month. Which is funny because they already had quite a hardcore base, but oh my god, it looks so beautiful.
Right,
I also love the very last image of the worm itself. It looks just like a human eye when you see all of the bristling teeth. Beautiful imagery.
Being my first time reading it, like I watched the movie back in the 80s several times. Being the first time reading it and seeing this trailer, plus it has personalities and actors in that I actually look forward to seeing it, I think it does match so much of the accuracy of the book that the 80s movie maybe took a little bit license with, Sting, that I am looking forward to this heavily. And it just looks phenomenal.
It looks awesome. Right? It looks awesome. Disney hasn't gotten their hands on it, so the likelihood of them ruining it is zero.
Oh yes. So I'm just throwing out the.
Come on.
What, Mulan?
When the next Star Wars film is announced, is your pulse gonna raise at all?
Hey,
mine's not.
I will tell you that. Actually, I'll let this play to the end here and get in trouble for it regardless.
It's so good.
I'm looking forward to season 2 Mandalorian because I enjoyed season 1. Film-wise, I have no idea.
Sure. So 4 movies,
The Worm,
an animated series, actually 2 animated series, and 1 live action series. Out of all of that, and the thing that we're excited about, or the thing that we think is good, is the 2nd season of the live action TV series. This looks gorgeous. I can't wait to see this. But if they're going to put Roundhead Ryan in charge of episodes 10, 11, and 12, I guarantee you I don't care.
Well, and we have no idea what the story would even be, right? Ugh.
And again, we talked about this as part of the Star Wars episode. You could have never convinced me 30 years ago. Heck, 20 years ago. You could have never convinced me that was going to be the case with Star Wars. I don't want to see anything that Kathleen Kennedy has touched. Like, no thanks.
No, well, you're right. No, this looks good.
Give me a bunch of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Like, I'll take that all day. Thank you.
Well, yeah. So anyhow, Dune, I've not read the book. I'm about a quarter of the way through it right now. Girlfriend's reading it for the first time as well, so we're trying to balance it so we can talk about it in addition. And in a way, for my benefit, because theaters are broken, it's been pushed back slightly. I forget how long, but when it does hit, I will likely be there in as much of a physical distance way as I can to watch that in theaters on as big a screen as I can get hold of.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, are you reading it in audiobook form or
no? I'm physically reading it because I was desperately looking to find a version of like used or something like that, and they have a new re-edition of it that's got a bright shiny cover to it. And so Lemon and I, my girlfriend and I, both had been looking at like used stores and stuff. You can find every other book in the Dune series except the original.
Amazing, man.
You can find Children's of, Sands of, Worms of, all the others, not Dune. Unless you buy it new, and currently it's like $20 new, and I think you can get paperback of it, maybe 15 or something like that. However, I happened to look on my shelf randomly because one of my friends was over and we're looking through my books. That reminds me, she borrowed mine. I have to see if they're back. If she's done. I have a 1983, I think, edition of Dune with stains and everything.
Very nice.
And so I am reading that right now and loving it. And I had to slow myself down because I was getting engrossed.
Hey, thanks for going into books. Just a heads up to everybody. I saw in my Audible app a couple of weeks ago that the release date for Ready Player 2 is in November.
Oh,
so we are roughly a month away.
God, I can't wait.
From Ernest Cline's direct sequel to Ready Player One.
I've still yet to read that. I've only seen the film.
Little concerned about a direct sequel to a book that seemed to have everything wrapped up.
True, but it all depends on what story they follow, right? Because it's interesting. Ready Player One, and yes, we're going over, is one of those interesting stories and books that I, like Sir Spencer saying, loved Ready Player One to no end. I own 3 copies of it. One was gifted to me for a Christmas gift or a birthday gift, I forget which, from one of my friends from Hide My Air. And the other 2, one I got my original copy that I read first in a loot crate back in the day when they were good. The second one I got from a gift, or I purchased myself that I lent out. Both my original copy I lent out to my buddy, I think, Kadama, I think, has one copy, and my buddy Schmitty, Shady has the other one. And then I have the one I was gifted on my shelf. That's how much I like this book. And it speaks to, I think, Todd, you and I both, literally us growing up as geeks.
Yeah. It's my childhood, or large chunks of my childhood in book form.
Yeah, if you want to know what it was like.
I was never that big of a Rush fan. So some of the Rush music stuff is a little lost on me.
I learned a lot more of the music after watching or after reading, because I actually went back and kind of researched some of it, reading like, I didn't follow that band.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Ernest Cline's second book, which was called Armada,
I haven't read it,
was okay. But you don't need to have participated in Armada to, I think, get anything, for this Ready Player 2. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
I am too. I will say I am I went with friends, watched the movie. I thought the movie was garbage, personally. I thought it was shiny. It was pretty. It presented a visualization of a VR experience that, based on people's current, at the time it was made, interests in gaming, was represented. But I felt like it lost the soul of the book and the actual problem solving and the necessity of understanding the 80s that was presented in the book. I thought they just threw all that out for the movie.
I massively scaled back my expectations when I came to the realization that they were going to have to buy licenses for all this stuff.
Right. Hey, but
And it
they
was
somehow,
like, well,
but they
so-
got, hey, they got
so
Master
this-
Chief in that shit. So that don't tell me they couldn't
They
have
did
gotten
well.
Zork. They couldn't have gotten freaking like all the stuff that mattered from the actual. They couldn't have gotten something from D&D, like the actual stuff that was in the book that they completely left out
I know,
of the
they-
movie and made into
they-
a bullshit racing
Well,
thing instead of
so the
questing through an
the
actual.
problem is,
I will
but the
rant
problem
about the
with
movie
that
all
is,
day.
right? If it was still TSR, right? If it was still Gygax, sure. they
Maybe,
could have
but
gotten their
because it's
hands on it.
Wizards of the Coast, maybe it costs too much.
But it's not Gygax. It's Wizards of the Cash owned by Hasbro, right? So, you know, a company whose meme name is Wizards of the Cash ain't giving up anything.
Yeah. Well, and
I'm
I was
just
appreciative.
saying, I scaled. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I was appreciative. I got to watch the movie with those who were uninitiated by the book, and they enjoyed it and showed it was shiny, and they were like, "That's fun." And I was like, "Cool." And then my other friend who's younger but is an 80s soul because loves the music and also read the book, and she and I were looking at each other during the movie like, "Are you kidding me? They what?" And everyone else was like, "That was fun." And we were like, "That was
They
shite."
left out. They left out the basement entirely, which I thought was a mistake.
God, yes. Well, they left
should have
out the
been a
nature of
major
it.
set piece in the film.
That they put that as a somehow embedded within was suddenly a mechanic, that H was suddenly a freaking mechanic versus everything that she was as a professional freaking gamer, which they could have done.
If we're gonna go there, that was done for Bechtel test reasons. Right?
I should not have brought this up.
I'm just saying she was a badass character regardless, and like I don't know why she couldn't have just been the Ready Player One universe Stevie Case. Like that would have been. I don't understand.
And Legend. You're right. You can't expect a 2-hour movie to encompass the entire novel. You're right. But they could have kept the core mechanics and not distilled it down to a completely different experience. The fact that they took out all of H's motivation for why she chose a large white male as her freaking avatar because of racial issues and instead turned her into a freaking orc pissed me off. Because she
that's pretty ridiculous.
She turned H into a piece of crap character instead of being something that actually had some teeth to it. And so, yes, that bothered me a lot.
No, so I 100% agree that the original dungeon on Ludus should have been there. And I really think that the basement as a set piece should have been there.
Agreed.
Because without it, it neuters IROC's motivations for betraying those guys in the first place.
Yep.
Right? So in the film, he's just a dick.
Yep.
In the book, he's a dick who knows all these guys.
Yes. Well,
right?
you get that whole
and the reason why he betrays him is because he can't hang.
Yeah, because he's trying to look at me, but he doesn't actually have the skill. Because the other thing they lost in the movie was that these people were not just random geeks. They were hardcore analytic, scientific type of gamers who didn't just do things because they were good at it. They embodied the entire lifestyle in order to understand the hunt. They were gunters. They lost the gunters and turned it into this distillation of somehow the library of his life, which was garbage because they all had their own notes that they built throughout the time to understand him, to try to figure out why Halliday, what he had done, and how it took away all the mental side of the book.
Something I had no idea.
No, dude, I have feels. Spencer's going nuts too. He agrees.
I might suggest that we at some point have a show discussing this film.
Another show just about Ready Player One.
Maybe once the book comes out, we could do. You guys could come on to the Ken Feature and I show and talk with the book.
I would love Ken, by the way, to jump in on one of the book shows. If you ever want to do one like on Dune, when I finish it, would jump on any of the others. There's so many book things I also enjoy. I know Todd has read the crap out of a bunch of books. And so if we find a time that would work out to not to take away from what you and Kitten Features are doing, but to also blend in, I'm happy to talk books. Books are amazing.
Yeah, totally. That's the thing. I don't see a reason why we couldn't do a Ready Player One, Ready Player Two thing towards the end of the year once we've had a chance.
I will reach over to the future shows notes right now and put that in there.
Very good. I'm not a stickler for timing because it's Sunday night, but we could also end the show.
We could end the show. But to do
so
that,
just before we do, I want to give a quick shout out to our new show because it was our first time this week. We had a couple of minor technical issues, but all the content was I think went really well. We had no major hiccups at all. We brought a couple of new listeners as well, which was interesting. We had a couple of people who didn't recognize in the chat, which was great. And lots of you guys showed up as well. Very much appreciate the support. I was good to see familiar faces too. We're not going to be doing weekly forever. We're going to do weekly this month, and then starting next month, we're going to do every second week because it's quite a lot to do 2 shows in a week.
Dude, read a whole book in a week and talk about it? What? I mean, book clubs usually spend like, a month on a book or more.
Yeah, I read at least 1 book a week anyway, so that's not a big deal from that side of things.
Wow.
It's just the having a well, I'm trying to do 48 books a year this year, so and I'm so far more or less on track. So it just doesn't make sense to do that sort of timeline. So we're going to do it every 2 weeks in November onwards. But next week we've decided on our book. It's going to be Murder on the Orient Express.
Hey, nice. That's a classic.
We're trying to, it's a classic, and we're trying to branch across all, genres. We don't just want to stick to what our favorites are. So I'm not just going to do fantasy, and Ken's not just going to do, well, actually, she likes lots of things, to be fair, so it's not so hard for her. So it's going to be an exploratory thing for us as well. But yeah, this coming week we're going to do Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. Nice. It just arrived yesterday, actually, so I'll have to read it at some point soon to talk about on Wednesday. Also, the week after that, I can't recall what we're doing. Oh, the week after that is Halloween, of course. Yeah. So that's the day before Halloween, and we're going to be doing.
You're going to do the Pet Cemetery. Oh, what?
The Halloween tree.
I don't know that one. Oh, I was totally going to throw Pet Cemetery at you or something. Something like Stephen King.
No.
Truly horrific.
I've seen the new film recently, actually. I read that book many years ago. It's a very good one. And I would like to revisit some Stephen King again at some point.
Hey,
I've actually read
just like you guys, just like you guys said on the last one, you could go through Rosemary's Baby.
Well, yeah, we would like to as well. I haven't read that yet, but Kitten loved that book, and I do need to read that.
I don't know the book. I've only seen the movie. Legit movie.
Yeah, we don't want to focus too much on one topic either, right?
Fair.
I don't want to be putting off certain people. I'd like it to be open to everybody. I want it to be come and try something different. That's kind of the message we want to do, and it's for us as well. So go check out our latest episode on YouTube. Is there?
I shared the link in there from VtWShowX. You can check out the YouTube link directly in the chat. Otherwise, if you go to the VtWShowX channel, the VTW Productions shows channel on YouTube, like you watch all of our shows, you can check out the episode of I can't say it again, Ken. Please tell me the name of the show.
The Novelty Book Nook.
I will get that.
So the one we did on Wednesday was on the Stepford Wives, and it's 33 minutes long, so it's not too lengthy. And yeah, it went really well. So check us out next week. We appreciate any feedback as well, so please do pass on anything technical or otherwise that you would like to see in the show or improvements and such. And we're excited to do it again this coming Wednesday.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I wish I wasn't running because I had comments. I would have so shared in the conversation as I went back and watched
that's all right. We're kind of struggling to do the interaction with the community live. It's tough to do a quick 30-minute review because that's not very much time. So used to this open 2 hour plus format we have here.
Give yourself an hour, Ken. What are you talking about? We're already at 2 hours and 15 plus our pre-show. What are you talking about? It's the internet.
I know. We spend more time than that not talking about our topic on this show, So, have to squeeze it in and have community interaction. So please leave comments on the YouTube as well, and as well on Reddit as well. That's where we're going to be checking out all that stuff. So, unless anyone has anything else, should I do the end of show?
All right, Ken, you are officially our bookend to the show. So please
Take us
help
home.
us.
I like that.
Help us get out of
that
here.
That was a good tie-in. I like that. You have been listening to ShowX live on twitch.tv/VtWShowX. Thank you so much for checking us out. You can find us all over the interwebs. We are on reddit.com/r/ShowX. Be sure to subscribe there and leave a comment and say hi. And cross-post to other subreddits if you can. We very much appreciate that because it gets us more well-known. Any places that you know of that we don't would be great. You can check us out on twitter.com/DocDead, twitter.com/drkenreed, and twitter.com/VtWShowX for Mr. Wayne, for myself, and for the show's official account. You can also check out. Are you dancing? Oh, you're
He's trying to point at Twitter.
That labels. I see. Okay, I thought you were just dancing. Okay. You can also check out Todd's page on Facebook, facebook.com/ShowX check that out to see all Todd's personal content there too. You can also find us on Facebook by searching for Show Space X. You can also support us by going to patreon.com/ShowX and support us with a minimum of $1 per month. It's very much appreciated to keep us afloat and help us keep up to date with hardware and software and services that we need to use to keep the show going and all that stuff. But honestly, the biggest thing for us guys is growth. So please do share us everywhere you can. That's where we really need. That's where we really need your support. Thank you so much for listening in, and thank you for having us, Win.
All right, everybody, we're out of here. /salute.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.